EdTech Monday Africa is brought to you by the MasterCard Foundation's Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning in ICT and MasterCard Foundation's Young Africa Works. What does it take to adopt e-learning in higher education? What are the benefits? And how can it be done? Join us for a conversation about expanding online learning for tertiary education. As part of the discussion and in celebration of 10 years of the MasterCard Foundation Scholars Program, the biggest scholarship initiative of its kind, partnering with universities around the world and in Africa to enable access to higher education, we will explore what lessons we can learn from the MasterCard Foundation's e-learning initiative. Join us.
A very warm welcome to EdTech Monday. I'm Julie Gishuru. It's a great pleasure to have you with us. This month, we focus on e-learning at university level. The use of e-learning in universities in Africa has been growing as the internet becomes readily available and the cost of devices decrease. The COVID-19 pandemic demonstrated the important role technology can and should play in enabling resilience at the higher education level. 77% of universities in Africa were forced to close during the COVID-19 related lockdowns. This was one of the highest rates of closure in the world. Just 29% of institutions were able to quickly move teaching and learning online, one of the lowest rates of any region. But today, there is increased appetite and urgency to enable e-learning at the tertiary level. That's good news. Digitizing higher education could have the power to make higher education more accessible and inclusive in a context where only 8% of young people typically attend university. We have a great panel with us this month. Joining us, John Hall, who is the Chief Product and Technology Officer at the Africa Leadership Group. Thank you for joining us, John.
It's great to be here, Julie. Thank you.
Also with us is Ines Ongos, who's Chief Manager at the MasterCard Foundation e-learning initiative at USIU-Africa. Ines, thank you for making time.
Thank you, Julie. It's great to be here.
And certainly last but not least is Diane Kwame, who is the lead Francophone Partners Network at the MasterCard Foundation. Diane, so good to have you with us.
Thank you, Julie. Pleasure to be here as well. Thank you.
Excellent. So we are learning so much post the COVID lockdowns. We've seen the numbers and the impact on learning at university level in Africa. And there is a need really to ensure that we are able to deliver digital learning. So, John, let's start with you and what the Africa Leadership Group is doing when it comes to enabling students to connect online, to learn, to stay in education. What are you seeing? What are you doing? What's the future?
Great question, Julie. First, to talk a little bit about sort of the broad context of what's happening in online learning in higher education in Africa is, on the one hand, we're failing to meet the needs of the continent. Only 8% of Africans have access to higher education. And sort of the driving factor behind this is that traditional forms of higher education are too expensive. And at the same time, many of the emerging online programs aren't achieving the desired results. They have low completion rates. They have low learning outcomes and achievements. And, the postgraduate, there's low employment rates of the graduates of those programs. At ALU and elsewhere, we think there's a way to design with a balanced scorecard that achieves both affordability and quality by traditional measures and non-traditional measures. We're really excited about that work. And I think it's not only a matter of applying technology to solve these challenges, but of thinking creatively about our academic program design, leveraging self-directed learning of our students and enabling experiential learning so students can demonstrate their mastery of the material that they're studying. So, I think there's some big challenges that we're up against, but also some bright spots on the horizon that we're working towards.
Before I leave the Africa Leadership University experience, give us one example of what has worked really, really well. Paint a picture for us.
Yeah, one of the things that I think has worked well for us is leveraging our students. I mentioned their self-directed learning. So when our students come onto campus, our programs are blended. So they spend their first term on our campus. They build those social networks that we think are really important during that first term, but then they go and do their other work remotely. And we leverage students' self-directed learning. So our students, instead of declaring a mission, instead of declaring a major, they choose a mission. So addressing one of the 14 grand challenges and opportunities facing the continent of Africa. And they come up with a learning program so that at the end of that program, they can make real world impact against that challenge, that opportunity in Africa. So leveraging self-directed learning in a distributed way has been really powerful for us.
Mission focus. I love that. Ines, let me come to you and the experience at USIU-Africa. What are you doing right now and what are you learning is working for your students?
Thank you, Julie. That's a great question. Again, just agreeing with John Hall, the online learning, in my view, is a good thing for African higher education institutions. Again, if embraced well and well supported, we see as a university online learning as an opportunity to expand quality education, to learners and to our students. We also see online learning as an opportunity to enable student success. And again, during the pandemic, what has worked really well with us is the fact that the university had a lot of investment on technology, prior to COVID. What that did is that our students who are unable to travel, were able to get online and still have their studies, So the social contract that as a university we had with our students, that if you sign up with us, for you to study your undergraduate in 3.5 years, you will complete your 3.5 years on time, regardless of the pandemic or whatever circumstances that basically you are going through.
Have you found there any particular courses where it works far better, where it's been really successful, and others where it's maybe been more of a challenge?
Yes, again, because, I just need to mention this, that online learning is heavy on investment, especially courses that are practical related, so our sciences program, like pharmacy, software engineering, applied computer technology, we found it slightly a bit difficult, again, to get those kind of programs, online, because the kind of investment level that are required, were at a different level. So we did leverage, and ensure which ones of the programs that we offer can go online. And we had over 800 courses that were being delivered online. So when pandemic eased a little bit, then we were now able to have a blended approach, so we kind of did a little bit of time shifting, and space shifting, just to allow some of the practical heavy programs, to come back on campus while we continue to offer the delivery, online. So again, that flexibility, has enabled us to deliver both on science subjects, business and humanity subjects at the same time.
Thank you so much for that, Ines. Diane, coming to you, there's so much opportunity in this e-learning model going forward, or even the hybrid model. It opens the doors for so many who are simply locked out of learning at this level. What have we seen in terms of the gains made through the COVID period, the learnings, the impact so far, and how are we seeing the future of e-learning for university education?
Thanks so much, Julie, for this great question. And as we speak, only about 8% of young people make it to the university level in Africa. And for us to achieve a vision of an equitable, relevant, and inclusive higher education system in Africa, the Mastercard Foundation and our partners in education have a common appreciation for the power, but also the potential of e-learning. For us at the Foundation, it is about how to ensure that every young person has a fair shot at a form of learning that enables a dignified livelihood. And online learning animates us so much at the foundation because it is directly related to our Young Africa Work strategy, which has set a goal of enabling 30 million young people to access dignified and fulfilling work with a strong focus on young women, forcibly displaced young people, and young people with disabilities. That is why in 2021, we launched the Mastercard Foundation e-learning initiative in partnership with Arizona State University and United States International University in Africa, USIU-A, to enable e-learning in 10 higher education institutions in Africa in the wake of a crisis as COVID-19 closed the doors of 77% of universities in Africa. And we all know that only 29% of these institutions were able to move quickly to online learning, demonstrating a clear gap. So we have worked with a number of African education technology companies to scale their solution to the pandemic learning crisis. And we have seen those changes happening. And while COVID-19 is in some ways, it is like a black swan, we also see this as a harbinger of future disruption. But we must ensure that even when life is disrupted, learning doesn't have to be. Therefore, building the e-learning delivery muscle is critical to remain relevant in the changing world. So we believe in harnessing technology to truly make higher education more inclusive, accessible to reach more young women, refugees, and young people with disabilities, precisely those who are most often locked out of opportunities, but also to make higher education more relevant on the continent. So Julie, e-learning is a great opportunity that we need to take. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Diane. And I love this when you say, even when life is disrupted, learning does not have to be. And this is a chance to bring so many in, to be inclusive and to move without leaving anybody behind. We talk often about no one left behind. Let me come to my next question. Ines, I will start with you on this one. Have we been able to maintain the momentum, the focus? Are we still on this path? I think very lucky that USIU had already started investing in the technology and then the lockdowns happened. But some people may have said, oh, well, let's go back to the usual. We're past all that now. And it's very easy to go back into a kind of business as usual mode. So wondering if we've been able to maintain the focus and what maybe the major challenges moving forward are that you would like to be addressed.
Thank you, Julie, and you are spot on. Again, as situation gets to normalize, is the question of are we able to keep the momentum? And the reality of the matter is, when COVID-19 struck, many African institutions, higher learning institutions, were ill-prepared, for this. So again, because they were ill-prepared, this investing or involving yourself on online learning requires a lot of heavy investments in so many other areas, including infrastructure. So the institutions that were ill-prepared, for it, when situation normalizes, they are like celebrating that now, we don't have to invest in e-learning anymore. Can we go back to our regular brick and mortar? So again, to that extent, the e-learning initiative has kind of lost momentum because institutions are looking at it, where do I have to invest the limited financial resources that I have? So they are beat kind of, for now, let me get students back to class, let me occupy my buildings, and all that kind of stuff as I figure out how to approach this strategically. However, the institutions that, again, had already put in some infrastructure in place, COVID kind of accelerated, the momentum. So the way they are looking at it and saying, I was having this level of infrastructure, this level of investment in place. When COVID struck, I had to invest more in video conference facilities. I had to invest more on how we are doing our assessment and administering our exams. I had to invest more on how we are supporting our students to succeed. Because of these investments, I am at some level. So what do I need to do? Now that, again, people are coming back to face-to-face reality, I can only do more. So this has now accelerated, and many institutions are now building more online programs, than what used to exist. They're now looking at it, how can we expand access? They're now seeing opportunity as a result of this. So to that extent, institutions which are having some kind of investment are now accelerating this because they're seeing the potential opportunities for e-learning to be able to basically expand that access and to be able to, basically ensure that we reach as many students, as possible. So it's two-way. There are those that have lost momentum a little bit, as a result of how prepared they were, but there are those that have seen this as an opportunity and are really accelerating this at an advanced level.
Thank you. So, if you were to speak to a stakeholder who needs to walk the journey with educational institutions, who would you want to speak to, and what would you want them to do to step up the most? What's that next level that's most urgent now for your organization? John, let me come to you.
Yeah, a really interesting question. I think one of the opportunities that we have is to talk to higher education commissions in the various accrediting bodies across Africa. I think there is a question of continental readiness for online education, and I think there's a wide level of variability in the level of understanding of what are the as I said before, the affordances and constraints of online higher education, and how do accrediting bodies go about reviewing and approving and understanding the rigor and the learning outcomes of online degree programs. So if I were to have an opportunity to talk to stakeholders, it would be those accrediting bodies, not only in Africa but around the globe, to explain to them what our experience in online higher education has been, and explain to them, as Diane says, that it's not just a matter of scaling, adding more units to this. It's a matter of rethinking how we go about delivering education, but that the outcomes are just as high quality as the on-campus outcomes, and in some ways can be better for the students in those online programs.
Thank you. Ines, the same question to you.
Again, for us, the important stakeholders that will have this engagement with, number one, would be the students. And we did ask this question to the students, again, that if you are presented with the three modes of delivery, where you have a purely, face-to-face, what would that look like? Would you be interested in such kind of, delivery? And we had 0 students, subscribing to that. And this was a focus group of about, 50 students. And then we asked another question that if you are to come for a pure, online programs, what would that look like? Would you subscribe to that? Out of 50, only 2 students said they would go for a pure online programs. And this, in terms of the age bracket, these were undergraduate students. Then we ask, how about a blended, mode of delivery where you've got part face-to-face, part online? What would that look like? Would you be interested? 48, of those 50, raised their hands and say that we are game in. So again, important stakeholders would be the students. So when we are designing our undergraduate programs, we already know that the preference of our students would be have part of those courses delivered online and have part of those courses delivered on campus, because they want to have on-campus experience. They would want to socialize, they would want to network, they would have to build all this human capital. If we would have asked the same questions to more senior students at the master's level, many would opt for purely online system because they're busy, they're working, and all that kind of stuff. They are motivated, they are self-motivated, to basically, pick, and the kind of investment they're basically making, they would not want, those investments to go to waste. So again, for me, once you kind of lock the students, then another important stakeholder is the leadership of the institution. The leadership of the institution is critical because they define the objectives, they define, the mission of the online teaching and learning.
Diane, let me come to you on this. And as the foundation, we do convene and use our role as a convener to truly advance this agenda. So, administration of these various different, higher level universities and other institutions, government is in the room, tech entrepreneurs are in the room. Who are some of the other key stakeholders you'd be really keen to bring into some of these rooms?
We are very much aligned, with what has been said. And so we already insist also on having youth, at the center of everything we do, because we are designing e-learning for them. They have a client, they have a customer, so we listen to them at first. These are the key stakeholders, and your voices are very critical to the success of everything we do. We design with them, we also execute with them, meaning we implement those programs with them. So the e-learning initiative see this opportunity really to address key issues also of what we have already in higher education system in Africa. But also we see this as an opportunity to enroll more youth in this movement that Ines just mentioned. So for us, youth voices and youth and youth in everything we do are very critical. And we started with this initiative at the onset of the pandemic, and we started with other type of stakeholders like faculty and staff within those institutions, because we are the one also who are delivering, these services. And for us, it is also crucial for further e-learning development, the career development for those faculty and staff. So important to develop policies that will enable those career development for those faculty and staff, because we really need to keep this momentum. So Ines mentioned how important the leadership, stewardship would be also critical. So we really need, to convene all these different key stakeholders besides the industry, the employers, the entrepreneurs, the accrediting bodies, the government, all sitting at the same table, but with youth at the center of everything we do.
Thank you. And I think so important to mention that the way the young generation consume digital tools is it's quick dopamine hits through the TikTok videos, that really fast information. And yet you are saying, come to this platform, immerse yourself and learn, read. And so actually there is a retraining element there to enable them to truly succeed and to focus in a different way on this particular platform. So John, I'd love to tap into you and then Ines around what you're learning on the issue of pathways into dignified livelihoods.
This is a really interesting question. I think we'd all agree that the biggest barrier to entry is the cost of higher education. And so, the biggest challenge that we face is how do we drive down the cost of higher education to make it affordable to more families in Africa. But assuming that we're able to apply technology and other approaches to lower that cost, I can respond to the pathways to dignified and fulfilling work in terms of what we're doing at ALU, recognizing that this is just a subset of the things that probably need to happen around the continent. But we're offering 2-degree programs, the Bachelors of Entrepreneurial Leadership and Software Engineering, because we think those are the most promising pathways for Africa at the moment. Africa is already the most entrepreneurial continent in the world. 22% of folks are starting businesses on the continent. So I think giving a framework for our students to be entrepreneurial leaders is really important for development. And we think that this is a more sustainable economic approach than other forms of development. Starting small businesses that operate on the continent is more effective at equitable distribution of those rewards than multinationals coming into Africa and operating there. The second is software engineering, right? Software engineering is the most in-demand job globally. We think there's a huge opportunity to attract customers to Africa, whether those are paying companies in Europe or North America who hire African software engineers, for African software engineers to partner with those entrepreneurial leaders that we're graduating to create businesses that transform the world. These are the things that we're focused on, and we think, from our perspective, are the most effective things that we can do at the moment to give pathways to young people to dignified, fulfilling work.
Thank you. Thank you. Ines?
Thank you, Julie. And I absolutely in consensus with, John, and comments, by Dan. And just to add on that, for me, make access, available for young people across the continent. The traditional pathways, for young people, who can get to dignified work, they can get to, entrepreneurship. Some would also wish to go to further studies so that they can become lecturers, because if you become a lecturer, you become a faculty member, that is still dignified work. But again, it's only that it takes slightly longer. So if we are able to dignified work. Yeah, so if we are able to address the access question, then we would be able to nail it. And how do we use technology to enable all these pathways? Allow, young people to enroll in programs of their choices. For me, that is important. What is happening in many African institutions is that the government chooses for you, the kind of program you're coming to study. You are an A student. You want to go and study medicine as your first choice, but at the point of courses becoming available, you are told that, you go and study economics, because the slots for medicine-related courses are all filled up, and because they are filled up, you're now studying courses that you're not passionate about. So how then do we, enable access and use technology to be able to allow or enable universities and institutions, if your capacity for enrolling medical-related students was 500, how can you use technology to be able to enroll 10 times? Because you're not confined to the brick and mortar kind of classrooms, so that now you don't turn away students to study things that they're actually not passionate about. So let's use technology to basically address access and allow students to enroll in programs of their choice. That again is one way of, clearing the pathways.
Thank you, Ines. Great points. And just before I come to my final question, I think this point around the short courses that equip young people with employability skills and training that enables them to go out there and find opportunities is happening. And John, I don't know if you or Diane want to speak to the work of ALX, which I think is really centering itself on this model of far shorter, faster enablement of young people. So maybe, John, let me start with you if you'd like to tap into that, and then I can come to Diane.
So I'll comment on two things. First, the ALX programs, essentially a software engineering boot camp with open enrollment that aims to address that gap, that shortage of software engineers around the globe. So super exciting program there that has tens of thousands of students enrolled in it. But I'll reference also my, prior to coming to ALU, because, this topic of professional development came up. I was at Cornell University leading the external education, tech and custom development programs. And, we saw in our North American market, 3 or 4 years ago, a real transition in the professional development space, where we went from 17,000 to over 100,000 students in our programs in over a 2.5 year period. And there was a real shift in the level of acceptance of working professionals to engage in online, non-degree, non-credit bearing professional development programs, and to invest a substantial amount of money at Cornell to do so. So, we think that's probably happening around the globe as well, that there is this transition. People are more interested, more willing in those online professional development experiences. And in fact, at Cornell, we partner with MasterCard Foundation and others to develop a hospitality program in Rwanda, and we're seeing the benefits there currently. And I'll just mention there are real cost affordances in this as well. Even in the Cornell context, with sort of the high faculty rates and the high HR and the high facility payments, it's all the infrastructure that you have at an Ivy League university. We were able to leverage design and technology to substantially lower the costs of these types of online programs. We think that's possible around the world.
Thank you. Excellent. Diane?
Thanks, Julie, and thanks, John, for this great contribution on the ALX aspects. I will not repeat what John mentioned, just add more and looking at other areas where we are focusing as well, because as we mentioned, e-learning should be accessible, inclusive, and one intervention that we are having currently is really this intervention among the refugees group, for example, and we are seeing this as an opportunity to address, the barriers that we are facing. And one thing that we are doing is really this upskilling and also making, those learning experiences very short, but also very focus, so that they can learn quickly, learn in different subjects, learn soft skills, but also learn quickly on the conditions, of a new country where they are, because this is a new experience for them. So they really need to learn very fast in order to adapt, but also in order to be able to access dignified and fulfilling work within the new context where they live. So refugees pathways, or I would say career pathways, also could be enhanced, for e-learning experience. And we are doing this for short programs, short certificates, upskilling, credentialing, programs, that could enable, this student experience for them, for this group. But also we are seeing also this as an opportunity to address, major topic like health. And Julie, as you know, recently with the Saving Lives, initiative, and this need, to target and reach more people in remote areas. So we see e-learning here as an opportunity to train very fast, those community leaders, who will relay this information about health, about how to address challenges regarding health, and train them, very quickly so that they can learn very fast, but also become leaders, transformative leaders within their own communities. So these are the two more areas that I really want to add to the example of ALX, and that could be very relevant, to this panel, because we are talking about e-learning that will unlock, opportunities for young people, for youth, but also for communities, living in rural areas, especially those facing additional barriers.
Thank you, Diane. And there you were referencing the Saving Lives and Livelihoods Partnership, which is a partnership between the Africa CDC and the MasterCard Foundation to ensure that Africa navigates successfully through the COVID-19 crisis. 4 pillars. One is to buy vaccines, over 65 million vaccines for the continent. The second is to deliver vaccines into arms, so all the logistics and support around that. The third is building workforce manufacturing, workforce development, workforce capacity around vaccine manufacturing on the African continent. And the fourth pillar is to build the capacity of the Africa CDC as the public health institution on the African continent, really overseeing the safety of this continent. So thank you for referencing that. And also, just for all our viewers, we're going to have the information on ALX on your screen in a moment. And we'll be sharing more information as well on the Africa Leadership University and on USIU-Africa in case you want to reach out and learn more about their work. And of course, to the MasterCard Foundation website for more information on the foundation's work as well. Now, let's take a moment to look at some of the views coming in from people online. Let's see what you have to say.
I'm Natrinda Emmanuel. I'm doing a Bachelor of Science in Medical Laboratory Technology at Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Ghana. I'm currently in my final year. My experience with online learning started when COVID pandemic struck, because here at Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, we were also affected, whereby the semester was still ongoing. And we are enrolled into the virtual class platform, which was previously being used by the online distance learning scholars at that time. And at first, it was a little bit challenging because we couldn't imagine to have to use the same device you're using to watch movies and do other things for full learning and academics. But we had to adjust. And along the way, I've come to actually like more online learning because of the flexibility it brings and having access to various materials 24 hours and 7 days in a week. So that's my experience with online learning so far. And right now, since they try to reduce the number of people who sit in class, so we are somehow doing both the online learning and the offline learning.
My name is Samantha Katsande, and I am a Zimbabwean currently studying in Ghana, doing Bachelor of Science in Medical Imaging, majoring in sonography. When it comes to the collaboration between EdTech innovators and also institutions, I think it would be very beneficial for students if they would make learning materials accessible offline. Maybe have partnerships with libraries that are close to different community libraries. It means that people can actually just go to the library and access the material without the need of any connection or any internet connection, or at least with limited internet connection. This would make sure that education is easily accessible to many people, compared to us depending on slow bandwidth, yet we cannot even access the online learning materials. Secondly, I think when it comes to such partnerships, they should also try to make sure that maybe telecom companies, they could reduce packages or data packages for students, whereby it's affordable for the next person to access education, or for the middle income to low income level students or parents to access education at the end of the day. Because if it's online learning or online education and it's expensive, at the end of the day, it doesn't meet the standards of people being able to access it. So there is need for partnerships which leads to either online learning material being available offline, or which leads to innovations whereby the availability of educational material is also at a lower price compared to when it is just expensive and no one can really access it, or is only accessible to those with the funds.
Do follow the handles on your screen now to continue conversations online around education, technology, and Africa. On to the final question for our panelists today. If we are successful in this endeavor to really deliver e-learning at university level, what could Africa look like? Paint the picture. What's your dream? John, I'm going to start with you and then come to Inez, and the final word will be Diane's.
I'll frame this in terms of what ALU is doing now. Is right. We imagine Africa being populated with entrepreneurial leaders who are starting tech companies that are transforming the world. And again, we don't think this is a pipe dream. We think this is a real opportunity based on the entrepreneurship that's already happening on the continent, and the demand for software engineers around the continent. I've had the opportunity in my role as CTO at ALU to hire folks from Ghana, from Nigeria, from Rwanda, from elsewhere. And I've commented to my colleagues here in the US, I've commented, hey, if I were doing a startup in the US right now, I would absolutely look to Africa for talent, because I think there is a lot of underutilized talent emerging on the continent. And I think our mission at ALU is to extend that and really build on this already emerging opportunity to transform the lives of thousands of young people in Africa.
Thank you. Thank you. Inez?
Thank you, Julie, for this wonderful, question. If we get it right, I think we are going to have a reimagined African university, and that reimagined African university, I'm looking at it in terms of access, for young people. We'll have more young people having access to quality, higher learning education, to quality education, as a result of e-learning. I see e-learning as an opportunity to help improve assessment. I see e-learning as an opportunity to help reach out, to help reach those vulnerable, the vulnerable community or the disadvantaged community or the secluded, population. I see, e-learning as an opportunity to give choices and options, to young people. And I see this as being beneficial to higher learning institutions in terms of space and time flexibility. But most importantly, I also see this as an opportunity, to cushion higher learning institutions from some financial situation. Because again, now, if you are able to move online, then you're likely to benefit from the economies, of scale, and that can help support, institutions in terms of, their growth areas, their priority areas, for young people. So again, e-learning is the way to go, and is the opportunity, that we all have that we can only tap into, for progress for our continent.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Diane?
Thank you, Julie, for this great question. And I will not repeat what Inez and John mentioned. I totally agree with them. What I would add here is really to say that if we get it right, we will exceed our goal of 30 million jobs, opportunities for young people in Africa. We will exceed that and maybe reach all young people in Africa. And this is, I would say, my dream, and especially for young women, because we see e-learning as a great opportunity for them so that they can learn but also succeed. And I am thinking about young women who are facing, challenges in their life, and thinking about those who cannot go to school, because of some households, workload, or because they have been pregnant and they cannot resume, work immediately, or maybe young women, facing more additional barriers living in remote areas. So this is a great opportunity for them. And also for youth with disabilities, because they can learn where they are without being, forced, to go at university, I mean on campus physically, so they can learn from where they are and succeed from where they are, and succeed in terms of giving back within their own communities. So, Julie, I think here we have a great opportunity to make e-learning a great opportunity for young people, and also address, those challenges that we have in our higher education system. I heard Ines mentioning the assessment mechanism, which can be more flexible if we really embrace high quality e-learning, but also learning which can be flexible from where we are at any time and from anywhere. So this would be my main contribution. And again, we can exceed our goal of 30 million jobs opportunities for youth in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane, and a big, big thank you to the panel. If we think about it for a moment, the mobile revolution, the mobile money revolution for Africa truly transformed the continent. It enabled small businesses, medium-sized businesses, the informal sector to access, movement of money in a way that simply was not possible before. And we've seen the result of it in many of our economies. So if we get this right, what could it mean for education and opportunity for young people on the continent? So exciting. Your thoughts are greatly appreciated, your perspectives. And of course, as always, EdTech Monday will be back with more next month. A big thank you to our panel for a great discussion. And thank you as well for taking the time to join us. See you again next month.
EdTech Monday Africa was brought to you by the MasterCard Foundation's Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning in ICT and MasterCard Foundation's Young Africa Works.